Today, I'm going to tell you a story that will shatter all your notions of fidelity and loyalty. When her husband was away serving in the army, his wife bravely took off her panties and plunged into a dangerous game of adultery. Get ready for a shocking story that shows that love and betrayal sometimes intertwine in the most unexpected ways. Get comfortable and we begin. This story is about how I went from being a model girl and model wife to put it mildly, a womanizer. But first things first. You know, my mother always drummed into my head one simple truth, that the woman's physical intimacy is not necessary. Keep your virginity for your husband. You're fat, and you're unlikely to love anybody. But I met my future husband at 18. He fell in love with me without a trace, literally, and I in his turn, and my innocence. I gave him in the 3rd month of the relationship. We never had any special emotional outbursts. You see, there was no jealousy, sorrows, or sudden attacks, passion, and love. I also have to touch on the fact that I really didn't like physical intimacy and don't like it at all. In order to somehow make this activity for myself a little bit pleasurable, I fantasized, closed my eyes to something, imagined, and in the aggregate it all helped. You know, my husband is kind, gentle, and his mother is spineless. I am the eternal child. My husband obeyed me in everything. Never crossed me. He tried to turn on the balls, but it was always out of place and out of time. I did all the men's work around the house because I just loved it. He cooked because he's a cook. And I even liked this exchange of responsibilities. We lived our lives the same way. There was another big problem that affected both of us. It was gambling addiction. I got over mine by the time I was 17, but he couldn't get over his. I understood him, because I myself had gone through this struggle, but for some reason he was weaker than me. For a year, he pretended to go to university, but he just sat there and played. He was expelled, of course. In the meantime, not without the help of my parents, but I still managed to open my own business and get him a job. Business was booming. We all worked together. My parents, me, and my husband. He was doing a great job, just between games. He was getting complaints and threats of fines if he didn't stop playing. Every once in a while he would stop. In the 3rd year of the relationship, he got so deep into the games that I completely forgot who I was. He would say love, smile at me, call me sunshine, but he wouldn't even sleep with me. All he did was play. Then I decided to show him how unpleasant it was. I told him, I'm a gamer too, and if I get into games, you'll regret that it's come to this. He laughed, since he didn't catch me in the body of a gambler. So I started playing games. We slept in separate rooms. We played our games all night long. We didn't clean the house and ate coffee. I don't know how it happened, but a guy paid attention to me in an online game. He was giving me his time, interacting with me, and something sparked in my heart, which I immediately reported to my husband. He said it was a game, nothing serious about it. There was no judgment in that. I kept in touch with the guy, and I fell in love with him and had a lot of fun just hanging out with him. My husband was well aware of all of this because I had reported the fact to him myself. And you know, he even became friends with him. One day though, they decided to play a game of dot. The husband was drunk after the holidays. When the guy went online and my husband contacted him, he jokingly, into the general voice chat yelled, "What, Sonia? How are we going to settle the wife?" I heard that. The guy called me and said, "Aren't you offended?" I was offended, though I shouldn't be. I'm the one cheating on my husband morally, not him cheating on me. My relationship with my boyfriend had gone too far spiritually. I couldn't imagine my life without him. My husband kept asking, "How's your Sanka?" Anyway, Sanka left me. I cried on my husband's lap, and he said he wouldn't play anymore. And he really didn't play. The relationship became as calm again, but the words, "I love you," I no longer told him for the next year. However, it didn't bother him in any way. He loved me. We didn't fight at all. And yes, He still worked for me. Meanwhile, I was drowning in emptiness. There was nothing inside. My mother said it was normal, and everyone lived like that. We had physical intimacy, but it was extremely rare, even though it had been infrequent before. And now, we were doing it almost on holidays, you know. The house was a dump. We stopped doing laundry, we stopped locking the bathroom doors, and sometimes we even forgot to bathe. And I didn't care about that anymore, although I used to try to change things. And then he gets a summons, and my mother says, "We have to play at the wedding." I said, "I don't want to. Let our feelings be tested by the army." To which Mom says no, then you'll lose your personal man. And for some reason I agreed. Still, he was a great man. Kind, loyal. Didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't hit me. Why not? And so the wedding was performed. I used the wedding money to build myself a powerful computer for work. My husband's eyes lit up, and gaming came back into our lives. I told him that if he kept playing, I would sit down to them too. And he knows how that could end. But he didn't care about that anymore. I started playing too. And just like that, history repeated itself. I got the attention of a guy, only he was different. He wasn't like anyone I had ever been in a relationship with before. I told him about my life, my relationship with my husband, and all the aches and pains I had. I was in love again. What can I say? And my husband was aware of it again, as I was reporting it myself again. He didn't take my online relationship seriously. And for nothing. On the last day, he was supposed to leave for the army. His mom told him to spend time with his wife. I told all my friends, the employees, to leave me alone for one day because I got to spend time with my husband. That day, he turned on a movie and said he was going to go get drinks at the store. He came back from the store with his friend. They went to play GTA on it, and I fell asleep alone at the TV. What can I say? That this was the last straw. Maybe. The online guy treated me completely differently. We could stare at each other for hours on the web, and not say a word or feel any awkwardness. It was something else. I had never felt this way about anyone before. My husband left. A month later, Dima arrived, the same guy from the web. And from that day on, I felt alive. I felt small and fragile next to him. That I could trust him with any secret and rely on him. I had no strength to resist him, and contrary to formal principles, I gave myself to him. And the feeling with him and the bed with him is exactly what I imagined myself to be, being innocent. Full of emotion, passion, tenderness, and love. Along with the elation came a weight of guilt on my shoulders, because I am married and my husband is in the army. A month passed. Before the army, I told my husband that I hadn't loved him for a long time, and I wrote him that he didn't deserve such trash as I did. All the sleuthing and flirting of the net. That's no way to live in shit like that. Sleeping in separate rooms and making love once a month. That's no life. We should get a divorce. My husband wrote that he would come back and fix everything. Things will be different, and I don't believe him. I don't want to go back to this life of shit and emptiness. I don't want to raise and lead anybody. I want to be a woman in strong male hands. Even though it's hard to call me a woman now. Forgive me for such a long description of the last years of my life, but I don't know how I can resolve this issue. My husband is in the army, and it will probably be difficult for him to accept the betrayal, since he has forgiven me everything, and hide the fact of the daily, frequent treason I cannot stand. Can you tell me what to do, what the right thing to do? Dear listeners, thank you for watching this video until the end and listening carefully to the story of this young woman. Please share your thoughts in the comments, whether she made the right choice and what she should do now. Also, if you like this story, please like it. It's the best motivation for my hard work for you. If you do not mind, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss new videos. And now on to the second story. There are facets to the world of infidelity that even the imagination cannot replicate. The wife who betrayed me has not only found a new lover, but she makes me submit to her to fulfill the most humiliating requests. Are you ready to hear a story that will shatter all notions of love and devotion? Hello all. Would love to hear your opinions and your advice. Anyway, here's my horny story for your consideration. I'm 33, my wife is 28. My wife and I have been together for almost 7 years, of which we have been formally married for 4 years. We have a daughter. She is 3.5 years old. After 2 years of acquaintance and cohabitation, my wife had a nervous breakdown, as she says, because of the lack of attention, love, and affection. She went to her mother's house and then to a rented apartment. I, in turn, tried to ask for forgiveness and to get her back for months, long months. During that time, I found out that she had cheated on me when she was in session in the 2nd year of our acquaintance. She was cheating with a married man. He was 13 years older than her. And after a nervous breakdown, she slept with some other freak. My relatives knew about it. She told them herself. When we met, I told them what they thought, but in my heart, I didn't want to believe it. In general, I had a fight with her for good. She moved into a rented house at her brother's and started living there with her former lover. At first, I killed myself for a long time, asked her to come back, but over time, I put up with it. I did not call her myself, and of course, I did not write to her, but the bitch started contacting me on her own, and I confessed that at some point I did. It was the biggest mistake of my life. After that, we started dating again and later living together. She told him everything under my pressure. Soon we were married and our daughter was born. I loved the child very much. A year and a half later, my wife took a job as a train conductor. Rumors began to circulate that while traveling, she twists her backside in front of all sorts of men. Even the breaker of her bosses began to make her remarks. You may ask, what am I? Again, the fool did not pay attention to this. I want to say right away that my wife does not have a very good reputation, and my friend knew about it. She told me that she had been sexually active since she was 14. She gave birth at 17, and he was 10 years older than she was. They didn't live long. The baby, unfortunately, was not born at 3.5 months. The story is absolutely unclear, but from her words, the baby suffocated under her breast after a feeding. Of course, after that she went on a rampage, but gradually the pain of loss subsided. I tried not to bring it up again. We took out a mortgage, bought an apartment, and rented it out for 2 years. In the meantime, we were living with my parents. And now a few words about our life. We fought and made up. We broke up and came back together. We didn't sleep together for weeks at a time. My wife, by the way, as a hostess, not so much. I always cleaned the apartment myself. I used to fight with her because of that too. I used to say that you demanded attention to yourself, but you did not want to hear me. When she quarreled, she would take the child and leave the house. Sometimes for days at a time, sometimes to my mother's or my brother's house. My father saw her lifestyle and told her everything and asked her to leave the apartment. We paid the mortgage, I took out a loan for the repairs, and we moved. We started living together. Recently, I began to notice the coldness from her side. Relationships began to heat up. She began to hang out on the phone, on social networks. Several times she came home late at night, and once even in the morning. I didn't say anything. And then one night, I picked up her phone while she was sleeping. I was freaking out. She was texting and calling back some schmuck from some village. Honey, kitty, you're my destiny, and all that stuff. I woke her up, said she made no secret that she had long wanted a divorce, and that she would not live for the baby. Tired of no attention and no affection. And then I also found out from my relatives that she had recently had a lover, whom she met in kindergarten, which introduces our child and his child in the same group. And finally, in conversation, she spilled more in one of the less when we were briefly apart. In short, I called her the last words, I will not tell you verbatim. When asked why, what do I deserve, She said that she did not feel happy around me. I filed for divorce. I moved in with my parents. For 2 months, I lived like water. My head felt like it was in a fog. I walked around like a zombie. I wasn't eating. I'd only smoked, tried booze, but it was getting worse. I wanted to finish her off and not live myself. I tried to talk sense into her, to start over for the sake of the child. At the thought of having another man next to my beloved daughter, I just couldn't breathe. There was a trial. I asked for a period of time to reconcile. It was the same girl who said she was in a new relationship. The judge shamed her, but gave us 3 months to reconcile. I'm starting to realize that I can't live with her anymore. Yeah, and she's going to live with this lineage. She puts her daughter on the phone so he can say goodnight to her, the bastard. I was left without an apartment, with debts, with undermined health, and my hopes and dreams crumbled overnight. It is very painful from the despicable betrayal of a loved one. Faith in people is lost. What to do with it? I do not know. I am afraid of losing my daughter, but I will have to see and hear this vile creature because of my daughter. And you use my example to draw conclusions about whether to forgive adultery. Even just one. I forgave once. Tell me what to do. I would appreciate your experience and your advice. Thank you. Dear listeners, friends, thank you for watching this video, for subscribing to the channel, giving likes, dislikes, react to the video in every way in the comments. And I also want to express my deepest respect and gratitude. And the next video is coming soon, as usual. No farewell and see you soon.